My wife actually laughed, right there at her father's retirement dinner when she found out I'd been hired as the new operations director at her ex-boyfriend's company. "You work for Damon?" she said, loud enough for the entire table to hear. Oh, this is embarrassing. 15 minutes later, Damon himself stood up at that same dinner, raised his glass, and said 4 words that made my wife's smile disappear completely. "Meet my new partner. My name is Elias Vance. I'm 34, living in Denver, Colorado, married to Fiona for 6 years." That dinner was supposed to be a celebration for Fiona's father's retirement. Extended family gathered at an upscale restaurant downtown. Nothing complicated about it until Fiona's laughter cut through the entire room. 3 weeks earlier, I'd accepted a position at Kestrel Holdings, a rapidly growing investment firm, unaware until my second day that the company's founder was Damon Ashworth, Fiona's ex-boyfriend from nearly a decade earlier, someone she dated for 3 years before we met. "You're working for Damon now?" Fiona had asked when I mentioned my new job title over dinner one evening, 3 weeks before her father's celebration. "Elias, that's genuinely humiliating. Everyone in our social circle knows our history. What does it say about you? Taking a job from the man I almost married?" I'd tried explaining that I'd applied without initially realizing the ownership connection, that by the time I discovered it during interviews, I was already impressed enough with the company's culture and compensation to proceed regardless of any awkward history. Fiona hadn't been satisfied with that explanation, her discomfort simmering beneath the surface for 3 weeks until finally erupting publicly at her father's retirement dinner. If you're already curious where this story goes from here, stay with me, because what happened over the following hour completely transformed how I understood both my marriage and my new career. And I promise the reveal coming up is worth every second of anticipation building right now. "Everyone, my husband works for my ex-boyfriend," Fiona announced to the table, her voice carrying that particular edge of humiliation dressed up as humor. "Isn't that just perfectly pathetic?" I felt heat rising in my face, extended family members exchanging uncomfortable glances, Fiona's mother visibly wincing at the public nature of this humiliation. I opened my mouth to respond, uncertain exactly what I intended to say, when a familiar voice interrupted from across the restaurant. "Actually, I think congratulations are in order," Damon said, walking toward our table with the easy confidence of someone completely unbothered by the tension he just walked into. Fiona's face shifted instantly from amused contempt to genuine shock. "Damon, what are you doing here?" "Your father invited me," Damon said smoothly, gesturing toward Fiona's father, who suddenly looked considerably more uncomfortable than his retirement celebration should have warranted. "We've been discussing a potential business partnership for the past 2 months, actually." I stood there, equally confused, watching this revelation unfold in real time alongside everyone else at the table. Damon raised his glass slightly, his attention shifting directly toward me. I don't think Fiona realized quite how impressed I've been with Elias's work these past 3 weeks, analytical instincts I rarely see in someone so new to investment operations, which is actually why I'm here tonight, partially. He paused for effect, clearly enjoying the dramatic weight of his announcement. "Elias, I've spent the past 2 weeks finalizing paperwork to bring you on as a full equity partner at Kestrel Holdings, effective immediately. Meet my new partner, everyone." The table fell into stunned silence. Fiona's mouth opened slightly, no words emerging, her earlier confident humiliation completely evaporated into visible shock. I want to pause right here, because I know exactly what you're thinking, and I promise this gets significantly more complicated in the next few minutes. So if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect moment, because what Damon reveals next about his actual motivation completely reframes everything happening at this table tonight. "I don't understand," Fiona finally managed, her voice considerably smaller than her earlier public announcement. "Why would you offer Elias a partnership? You barely know him." "I know his work exceptionally well," Damon said, "but if I'm being completely honest, Fiona, part of my motivation involves something beyond simple professional merit." The table's attention sharpened considerably at this admission. 7 years ago, Damon continued, "when you ended our relationship, you told me I was too consumed by work, too disconnected from genuine partnership, too focused on building an empire alone rather than building something meaningful with someone beside me. That criticism, however painful at the time, ultimately reshaped how I approach both business and personal relationships." Fiona sat frozen, clearly not expecting this direction from a conversation that had started as simple professional news. "When Elias joined Kestrel Holdings," Damon continued, "and I recognized his last name, I initially considered simply avoiding direct interaction. maintaining appropriate distance given our history. But watching him work these past 3 weeks, watching the genuine partnership dynamic he brings to every project, the way he elevates everyone around him rather than simply pursuing individual achievement, I realized something important. He turned his attention fully toward me now. You represent exactly the kind of partnership I never learned to build during our relationship, Fiona. Not romantic partnership, obviously, but the professional equivalent of everything I failed to understand about genuine collaboration years ago. I sat there, processing information that had shifted from personal humiliation to professional validation to something considerably more complex within just a few minutes. I'm not trying to create complicated tension within your marriage, Damon said, addressing both Fiona and me directly now. I'm genuinely trying to build the strongest possible leadership team for Kestrel Holdings moving forward. Elias earned this partnership through demonstrated skill, not through any connection to our shared history. Fiona's father cleared his throat uncomfortably. I should probably explain my own role in this timeline, he said, addressing the table with visible discomfort. Damon reached out to me 2 months ago, before Elias was even hired at Kestrel Holdings, discussing potential investment opportunities completely unrelated to any of this. I had no idea Elias would eventually work there, let alone receive a partnership offer. You've been in business discussions with Damon for 2 months, Fiona said slowly, and never mentioned this to me. Because our business relationship has nothing to do with your personal history, her father said. I didn't realize the connection would become relevant until literally walking into this dinner tonight. The layers of coincidence and complication continued unfolding as the dinner progressed, considerably more complex than the simple, humiliating moment Fiona had initially intended to create at my expense. Later that evening, driving home together in tense silence, Fiona finally addressed what had happened directly. I need you to understand why I reacted the way I did at dinner, she said. It wasn't really about you working for Damon specifically. It was about feeling like our entire history was suddenly on display, being forced to explain complicated history to family members who didn't need those details. That doesn't excuse publicly humiliating me over something I couldn't control, I said. I didn't choose this connection to your past, Fiona. I applied for a job I was qualified for, discovering the ownership connection only after I was already invested in the opportunity. I know that, she said, tears forming now. I think I reacted from old insecurity rather than actually thinking through how humiliating that public reaction would feel for you. We sat with that tension for several days following the dinner, Fiona processing her own complicated feelings about Damon's continued presence in both our professional and now expanded personal circles, while I navigated an unexpected partnership opportunity that fundamentally altered my career trajectory practically overnight. A week later, Fiona finally opened up more completely about the deeper source of her discomfort. I think part of what upset me most wasn't really about you working for Damon, she admitted during a quiet evening conversation. It was watching him publicly validate you in ways that highlighted exactly the kind of partnership language he never used during our relationship. I think some part of me felt jealous watching him extend that recognition to you so easily. Jealous of me receiving professional recognition? I asked, genuinely confused. Jealous that you were receiving the kind of partnership acknowledgement I always wanted from him and never got, she clarified, which I recognize is completely irrational, given I'm happily married to you now, not to him. But watching that dynamic unfold at dinner triggered old wounds I apparently haven't fully processed. This admission opened space for deeper conversation about lingering emotional patterns from Fiona's previous relationship that had never been fully addressed. Patterns that occasionally surfaced in unexpected ways throughout our 6 years of marriage without either of us fully understanding their origin. We began attending couples counseling shortly after, not because our marriage was fundamentally troubled, but because that dinner had revealed unprocessed emotional history requiring more direct attention than either of us had previously acknowledged. Meanwhile, at Kestrel Holdings, my new partnership role brought both exciting opportunities and complicated dynamics, navigating professional relationship with Damon while managing Fiona's periodic discomfort about our continued connection. I need you to understand something clearly, Damon told me privately, several weeks into my new partnership role. I'm not trying to insert myself into your marriage or create ongoing complication between you and Fiona. This partnership is entirely about professional respect and strategic business decisions. Nothing more complicated than that. I appreciate you saying that directly, I said, though I think Fiona needs to hear that reassurance from you as well, not just secondhand through me. Damon arranged a private conversation with Fiona shortly after, clarifying his professional intentions clearly, acknowledging the awkwardness of the situation while emphasizing genuine respect for both my capabilities and our marriage's boundaries. I think I needed to hear him say directly that this isn't about lingering feelings or complicated motivations, Fiona told me afterward. Sometimes we construct narratives in our heads that don't actually match reality, and hearing him articulate his actual intentions clearly helped dissolve assumptions I'd been carrying since that dinner. Over the following months, our marriage strengthened considerably through the deliberate work of addressing previously unspoken insecurities and assumptions. While my career flourished under a partnership structure that provided both significant professional growth and eventually genuine collegial respect with Damon that transcended the initial awkwardness of our unusual connection. Fiona's father, feeling genuinely guilty about his unintentional role in creating that dramatic dinner revelation, made concerted efforts moving forward to ensure better communication about business relationships that might intersect with family dynamics, avoiding similar, surprising overlaps in the future. A year after that dinner, our family gathered again for a considerably calmer celebration, this time for my own professional achievement. Kestrel Holdings recognizing significant growth partially attributed to strategic decisions I championed since joining as partner. I owe you an apology I should have offered immediately after that first dinner, Fiona said during a quiet moment at that later celebration. Instead of celebrating your genuine professional achievement, I let old insecurity turn a proud moment into public humiliation. I'm genuinely proud of everything you've built at Kestrel Holdings, regardless of its complicated origin story. I appreciate that, I said, though I think that entire complicated evening ultimately led us toward addressing patterns in our marriage that needed attention regardless of the specific catalyst. Damon, attending that later celebration as both business partner and, surprisingly, evolving family friend, offered his own reflection during a private conversation. I think that dinner taught me something important too, he said, about how professional recognition, however well-intentioned, can create unexpected personal complications when history overlaps unexpectedly. I probably should have had a private conversation with both of you before making that announcement so publicly. Probably, I agreed, though I understand the impulse given how publicly humiliating Fiona's initial reaction had been. 2 years into my partnership at Kestrel Holdings now, our professional relationship has evolved into genuine mutual respect, while my marriage with Fiona has grown considerably stronger through the deliberate work of addressing insecurities that dinner initially, painfully, revealed. I think often about that evening, about how quickly public humiliation transformed into unexpected validation, about how thoroughly that single dinner revealed complicated layers within both my professional trajectory and my marriage that required genuine attention rather than simple avoidance. If you've ever experienced a moment where public humiliation unexpectedly transformed into validation, or where old relationship history unexpectedly intersected with your current life in complicated ways, I hope this story reminds you of something important. Sometimes the most uncomfortable moments ultimately reveal exactly what needs addressing within our closest relationships, whether professional or personal. The path toward genuine partnership, whether in marriage or business, often requires navigating exactly the kind of complicated, uncomfortable truth-telling that initially feels devastating before ultimately proving clarifying and strengthening. Real growth in any relationship rarely comes from avoiding uncomfortable complexity. It comes from facing that complexity directly with enough honesty and vulnerability to transform initial humiliation or confusion into genuine understanding and connection.